It's time to open up the booster pack of news. Let's see if we can pull some good news or whether it'll all be duds. Let's find out for the week of July 13th, 2022. This story goes out to all the collectible card game players out there. TCGPlayer has announced it'll be acquiring Channel Fireball as well as Binder POS. These are all major names in the collectible card game arena, in particular Magic the Gathering. Channel Fireball for me was a company that posted many different articles and also ran events, and TCGPlayer is a major marketplace to buy singles, one that I still use for not just Magic, but for plenty of other card games. Of course, my pick of poison currently is the Digimon one. I do recall reading that Channel Fireball had some issues because they had invested a bit more in their events right around 2020, right around when we all were forced in quarantine and we couldn't all meet publicly. So I wouldn't be surprised if the setbacks from the pandemic might have been what helped push this merger together. Now, I do use TCGPlayer for singles, but I think as anyone should be whenever we hear company mergers, we should be a little bit worried. This is because that is a consolidation of power, and if you don't like some of their practices, nothing against these companies in particular that I can think of right now, but in general, it means we have less options. That said, we'll have to see what happens going forward. Hopefully, TCGPlayer doesn't just take these apart as we've seen other companies do, but rather takes advantage of what these names already meant and take advantage of using them, such as maybe providing more event spaces, maybe not just for Magic the Gathering, but for some of the other card games they sell singles for. Our next story is about Petersen Games. They are known for these really exclusive deluxe large miniature games, almost exclusively found through crowdfunding sites such as Kickstarter. This includes Cthulhu Wars, one of my personal favorites. Now, unfortunately, I wish I could say I have good news, but this definitely falls in the realm of very bad news. It appears that over the last week or so, they have been laying off most of their staff. Now, what I've gathered from Facebook posts and some Discord messages, it seems that they actually had a meeting with their staff saying that they would be doing this by the end of July, most likely. And apparently, that was a bit optimistic, and they did it by the beginning of July instead. Unfortunately, this came pretty sudden for the staff, so they're obviously not pretty happy about this. This includes George Botello, who received the news of his layoff when he was with his wife during the birth of their child. Not the best timing. Now, you can read more from George from a Facebook post, and to my knowledge, Petersen Games has made a response on a Discord, but nothing like an official press announcement. Now, a lot of people are also talking about what does this mean for the games they've backed from Petersen Games. Is there a chance that they're going to get them, or does this mean that they're all out of luck? And unfortunately, if we look at other Kickstarter board games, the 8-ball currently reading is the outcome does not look positive. I've seen some people saying that all your Cthulhu Wars pledges are safe while everything else is on the chopping block. It's a bit optimistic, but I think a bit more reasonable. Cthulhu Wars is their sort of bread and butter. It's definitely the thing that people like the most. Like I said, it's one of my favorite ones that I love. But I have to think though, how did we get here? And once again, I think I got to go back to 2020 and the pandemic. The difference though being, I think comes less from people not being able to get together, but the factories. Petersen Games, and I think other games companies as well, had this model of using Kickstarters back to back to back to sort of help each other out and maybe grow a little bit more each time. Now, up until this moment, I've never had doubt in the Petersen Games. I'll be full disclosure. They usually sent updates so much so I was sort of annoyed. Like, I get it. I get 5 emails because I backed every Cthulhu Wars thing. But it wasn't something I ever was worried about at the time. Because if something was late, I'm usually shrugging like whatever. But I think the problem is that for Petersen Games is that what they made was, it felt very niche to certain gamers, like these are big, heavy miniature games or they're silly April Fool's products. It's something that I think was like boutique almost. I don't want to keep saying niche, but I think a lot of Petersen Games' biggest titles, and definitely some of the earlier ones, were designed for a small but loyal audience like Cthulhu Wars. And unfortunately, I don't think this worked out well when the pandemic hit. Because all the factories closed, they couldn't continue to make the products. They had required these, really heavy miniatures. They were already on the hook for plenty of other projects as well. And I think other companies that had either really simple, easy to print on demand products or just had a very wide audience were able to sort of take the hits when it was much harder for Petersen games to sort of shift. I think that's actually why we saw this push from them. If you look over the last few years of releasing games that are smaller and simpler, like the Cthulhu Wars Duels, unfortunately, I have no official way to tell you which ones are right now going to be backed, which ones are going to fail, whether they're going to be able to push forward through all this and they just need to do these layoffs that somehow will fix everything. We'll have to keep an eye on and see what happens. And yes, full disclosure, I am still waiting on a few Sandy Petersen projects, most of them involving Cthulhu Wars. Now for a bit of a tonal shift because I need a bit of a palate cleanser. There are casting calls for a Pokemon trading card game reality TV show. That's right. Those are words I did not think I would use together. It seems that they are looking not just for experienced trading card game players, but those who are new as well. So, judging by that alone, I'm guessing it's not just going to be about like pro players and following the tournament scene. I mean, I guess that's technically reality, but usually when I think of reality TV show, that's not the kind, that sounds more documentary rather than reality being more entertaining. Besides this, I don't really have much else besides speculation. But that's exactly what we're going to be doing. Now, here are some thoughts. Now, maybe you're going to have to choose that perfect partner by giving away the last Rosalia. Maybe it's going to be Survivor style, but instead you're going to be stuck in a trading card game store. Maybe we can take the cooking angle and you're going to have to try to replicate all the curries that you can make in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Maybe it'll simply be a race among supermarkets, seeing who can collect the most Pokemon product and resell it at absurd prices. Regardless, I do think this is a silly idea. However, in terms of it being an actually interesting show, I personally am not going to hold my breath. I am not a reality TV show person outside of maybe some cooking shows. And this seems like the kind of thing, at least be more sort of adjacent to it and almost maybe even mocking people who are heavily interested in the card game. But I could be completely wrong. Maybe this will be something that helps celebrate those who enjoy the Pokemon trading card game. But I wouldn't bet on it. The Ennie Awards for this year have been announced. If you don't know, these are the major awards for RPGs. It's got tons of different awards you should check out for either like accessories, cover art, best monster, obviously best product, writing. So anything, if you're curious in RPGs, you really should always check these out because it gives a whole list and obviously introduces me to ones that I haven't heard about because I'm not as in-depth in the RPGs. Now, there are tons of awards and a lot of different products mentioned, so I won't go over all of them, but I do want to do a small shout out for the two I'm very interested in because they're both nominated for Product of the Year. There is the Root RPG, and then there's Jiangxi, Blood in the Banquet Hall. Both of these sound like awesome RPGs that I've been wanting to try out. It's hard enough to play games together. Getting an RPG group is going to be even harder, but I wish the best for not just these two, but for everyone. And like I said, if you're interested, do check out the nominees because even if you're new to RPGs or you're a veteran, you're going to find a lot of cool products there for you to fit whatever you need for your campaign. Now, unfortunately, for a somber note, last Wednesday, Takahashi was found dead on a beach. It seems he was snorkeling in an area that's very popular, like vacation spot, but as of right now, we do not have a cause of death. He is the creator of the Yu-Gi-Oh manga, which of course spurned and created the Yu-Gi-Oh card game, TV shows, and it's a pretty big hit, not just for the anime world, but also for the tabletop world. We have to remember that card games are one of the many ways that people get into this. And I know plenty of people that Yu-Gi-Oh holds a very dear and important place in their heart, whether they still play it now or it was something they picked up earlier. I don't play Yu-Gi-Oh now, but I did when I was younger. right around, I think, the end of grade school into ending probably early high school. It was around the time that I moved cross country. I didn't actually know that many people, so most of the cards I collected were just for myself. I almost goldfish not tournaments, games, and just playing out different hands. I still hold a soft spot for the Black Luster Soldier. It was one of the cards I opened up, not the ritual one, I forget. I think it's Envoy the Beginning is the word or something, the subtext they added for it. It involved removing light and dark creatures. It was just a cool card that I thought was always fun to have, and it was like, my trump card. And these are important things, and I still love a lot of the designs of them. And by the way, I think the manga actually, especially the early one, was really cool because it didn't actually start off as a card game. It started off with the character. Now this I'm going to mess up. I think it's Yugi is the actual name of the character. Having the Millennium Puzzle and playing much weirder games with people with much darker outcomes. I remember there was one with balancing lighters on your hand and the guy accidentally lit himself on fire, someone going insane and thinking a bunch of leaves are money. It was a really weird concept, and it's sort of funny to see how that shifted to the card game that we know and love today. And now for some game announcements. First off, we have Ahoy from Leader Games, another, of course, 4-letter word. This one is a bit of a pirate theme, which depending on different player counts, you're actually going to have different groups in the game. So it looks a bit asymmetrical. Very curious to see how this plays. Then we've got Phoenix joining the cast of Marvel Champions. This is, of course, Jean Grey with the Phoenix Force, so I imagine it's going to have a lot of tempting with power kind of deal in her cards that maybe if you go too much in that you may become either corrupted or just blow everyone up. Whether that's an instant loss or just a lot of damage, we'll have to see. We've got a new Ticket to Ride. This is Ticket to Ride Ghost Train. This seems to be a Halloween reskin of the younger Ticket to Ride version. So definitely for if you have any kids who happen to love Halloween and Nightmare Before Christmas. Then we've got a new Unlock. This one seems to be adventure themed, and it's got Sherlock Holmes, Robin Hood, and one that I don't think has any copyright, but from the pictures, it looks like it's a heist with also Fast and the Furious. Yes, I know Fast and Furious is about heist, but they specifically mention heist in the description. Finally, this one's for Warhammer 40k. Don't know how many fans of that watch this, but I thought this was cool. They have announced and shown the images for the Agron Demon Primarch Mini. I don't know if mini is the right word to use for this, but it does look cool. But also, it's a Primarch. There aren't that many that you can actually play with in the tabletop game. I believe this is either number 4 or there were 4 before. Regardless, this is, I think, something really cool, and I'm curious to see whether Games Workshop now is going to be gearing up to release other Primarchs you can play with, as these are the sort of big named people in the world of Warhammer. Obviously, some of them are a little bit hard because they've been, killed off. We know for a fact, but I'm sure people would love to be able to have their army be led by their actual Primarch rather than just substituting maybe either a sort of kit bash or some of their lower but still important named generals. Now it's time for Kickstarter Pickstarter. Let's see if there are any good projects out for you to back. Our first game is Leviathan Wilds from Mooncrab Games. This is a company actually from former Fantasy Flight Games and Z-Man veterans. We actually talked with them a little while for our podcast. I think that should be a part of the YouTube segment. If not, you can check wherever you listen to podcasts. But this game is about working together to climb these giant creatures, Leviathans, Titans, if you will, and not kill them, but rather try and heal them. As I stated in the podcast, this is a game right up my alley. It's cooperative, but you're actually helping the creatures as well, so I'm going to feel very good. It's got the book instead of for a bunch of different boards, which means you can turn the page. It's something I'd like to see more companies do for their board. Now, you can pick up this game for $55. I highly recommend it. Like I said, first game from the studio, and I have high expectations to see what else they have in store. Next up is Taverns and Dragons. This is a game when you need to impress the king the most by cooking recipes in your tavern. What I think sounds really cool about this game is the way it works is you have minions who run around the board in order to help collect your resources. but it's not worker placement with them exactly. You actually will be rolling dice, and you could choose to assign those dice either to your workers to move them that many spaces, where they can land on a spot that helps you trigger something, or you can assign the dice to other parts of the board, be it your own sheet or the recipes, in order to activate those areas. I like this idea as the dice provide multiple options. You have to decide which values you roll, whether you think it's worth it to put that higher number in one place or another. And it's a mechanic that I can think I've seen a couple times before, but definitely not oversaturated at all. It also comes with a bunch of heroes which you can use to help increase your engine, as well as a dragon that goes in the center of board. It comes with multiple dragons, so depending on which one you choose to play with, probably will change up the rules as well as what strategies are viable for that game. Now, if you're interested in this, you can back it for around $46. Next one is Moon. It's actually part of a trilogy with Village and Street. This game is about drafting cards and placing them, trying to have the best city to be the capital of the moon. That said, though, the cards you play will have spaces for caravans where you will actually move your workers onto other people's city spaces to unlock different powers and actions. I love this idea of not only building your own place for points, but opening up options based on what you play for your opponents or what your opponents play for you. It looks like a really fun game, and I admit I don't remember Villagers or Streets if they were on Kickstarter, but this alone has made me interested in how those play as well. If you are curious on just getting Moon, though, you can back it for around $36. Last one is for a Kickstarter for the 100 Tori Diverging Paths. It's an expansion for the 100 Tori. I know this was a pick for me a while back, but the reason why I am bringing this up is not just because of the expansion, which does look cool, don't get me wrong, but there's also a deluxe Hanafuda or Koi Koi deck you can get as well. The art on it is beautiful. I do really like Koi Koi. In fact, it seems to be one of our most commented videos for us. Often a lot of people ending up there because of Summer Wars. And I thought this was one really cute and just wanted to do a shout out for. If you just are interested in the Koi Koi cards, you can get that for $30. The expansion is $40, or you can get both for $65. Finally, some Kickstarters are ending. Some of them are ones I've mentioned on the show before, such as the Dice Throne Santa versus Krampus, as well as the Stonewall Uprising. There's also some others that looked interesting, including Medieval Carnival, as well as the Savage Worlds version of Pathfinder Curse of the Crimson Throne. You don't have much time left to back these, so if they sound interesting to you, check them out right now. One more quick note. Recently, I released the review for Suspect, a detective game from Studio H. It's one I really like. You can watch the review and hear me praise and what I like about it. But if you're attending Gencon, not only will it be there available, but they're going to have some events and other ways that you can actually get a K0 in case you're unsure about it and want to try it out for yourself. Either way, watch the review and, of course, check this out. It is one that I really like, so if you're into those mystery solving kind of games, definitely check it out. But for now, that is our news. Please let me know what your thoughts on these stories are. A bit more darker than usual, or at least it feels like to me. So let me know if any of these stories impact you personally. Did you back any of the Petersen games? What are some Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are very important to you, or Yu-Gi-Oh moments? I'd love to hear from you in the comments down below. Thank you so much, and please, if you can, like and subscribe. If you think someone would be interested in this news, please share it with them. But for now, I'm Will Keeler, and this has been Roll for Crit.